Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and our pandemic projects continue. I'm working on a pile that John had sent in. John from New York sent me a group of reels, and the last one of his South Bend. So you saw the South Bend 750. I recently completed the South Bend 710, and now we got the South Bend Mustang 320. A little bit of a different reel, a little bit later. This one versus the 710 has a bail spring. It seems to be sticking back here, this little trip lever. We'll just put some oil on that and you can see it stick. It didn't fully throw. It's because this hasn't retracted, but usually some penetrating oil can solve that, and we'll give it a go with that. We're going to take this reel apart. We'll show you how it's made and how to service it. And this one's probably 1960s. I can remember fishing with the reel. It was very similar to this growing up, and don't remember exactly whose it was, but boy, if that doesn't bring back memories. Okay, so we've got a clicker on here. Whenever I disassemble a reel, I like to pull that click off. That way when I remove the main gear, I don't have to worry too much about trapping anything or shooting any springs. Let's start underneath here. I'm going to grab this spool. Take the spool off so that we can get to this little trip mechanism, and I'm pretty sure that's just a case of the lack of oil of that. So we're going to throw some WD-40 in there. We're going to let that sit. Then we're going to come underneath. We'll take the main gear out, the assembly. We'll make sure that all of that gets lubricated. Also, while I'm at it, doesn't hurt to put a little bit of the WD-40 on both sides. This is a dead end. There's nothing moving in here. That's just a wire holder. But this side we do have the spring, so we'll work through that. It has a single screw takeoff here, somewhat similar to the Mitchell 320 series, actually. Yeah, so pretty much the same series. Let's take that off. So South Bend, from a history standpoint, we mentioned it. South Bend is South Bend, Indiana. And South Bend started with as an independent, then it got acquired by Gladding, the line maker, and then it was back to switch of control when Gladding went bankrupt. Okay, this is not very far off of what we saw on the other one. We have a main gear, a pinion gear. I'll show you, I just had a question on this before about how to get a rotor off when it doesn't have a nut on it, so we'll show you about that. And then we'll just clean this up, lubricate it, and put it back together. So we start by removing the axle shaft. The axle shaft is held in by a pin. There you go, simple enough. You'll notice I have a latex glove on my hand here to keep the greases off of it. And I also use a parts tray here. So I recommend you do the same. It helps you keep track of the pieces and parts as you take them off the reel. I'm going to hold that crosswind block now so that I can remove the axle shaft. And this is why it's running a little bit tight. That axle shaft is a little hard to get out. But eventually it comes out. And this is not unusual for these types of reels as well. Sometimes you get a little bend in that axle shaft. That's, I suspect, what's going on here as it tries to clear the pinion. So don't go wrenching or anything. Best way to get leverage on an axle shaft if you're running in this problem, just put the dragon adjuster knob back on and then pull it out that way. All right, so I've gotten questions recently actually about how do I take the rotor off when there's no nut. Well, there's a little U-clip underneath here that slides into a groove in your pinion gear. And you simply have to pull that up and out like this. That's your U-clip. And once you release that, you can remove the rotor. So here's the balance of that click mechanism. So we're just going to make sure that we have a good lubrication all around on that. There looks like there's some dried grease underneath here. So my guess is what that is, it's perhaps as it's getting to the back end here that it's bumping in against this dried grease. So let's get that off of the channel. And then we can just kind of work it a little bit. I just heard it already. It seems they're freed up. Yep, so that's how it's going to trip. It's going to hit that button. That's going to pull it in, and that'll trip. All right, that's better already. All right, I'm going to take that button off this. We're just going to clean this up, main shaft. Put those two pieces. Okay, so we're just going to continue with a little bit of cleaning, and then we're going to reassemble. This is a very simple reel, but it's a reel that has enough design in it that it will last. I'm just going to use a cotton swab to get the old grease out of the case. Not much in there. That's probably one of the reasons why it kind of bogged down the way it did. But on the bottom here and the back, that's pretty much all there is there. The crosswind block then has the same kind of greasing on it, so we'll get rid of that. I'll make sure you get the crosswind block clean in that groove. It's a little plastic one, and that's, interestingly enough, when you find these reels break, if you find them at like at a tag sale or something and they're broken, it's usually a little plastic part like this that goes, and of course when that's gone, that's probably about it. Alright, I pulled the main gear out. So the main gear has got a anti-reverse that runs off the back of it. There's the sawtooth, which is pretty much a standard kind of a thing. As I mentioned, I like to take this off, set it to the off position. You can note the spring. It's always good to take a picture of this when you're working on these reels, because if that spring flies, at least you know where it goes. It's kind of hard to intuit maybe that it belongs in that little groove there and the little groove here. So you just want to take a picture of that. If you get stuck along the way, you know how to put it back together. But I back it off, that way I can reinsert this without tripping over that little tongue there that's going to hold into that sawtooth in the back there. Alright, clean out the main gear. If you notice that there's any accumulation of grease and grime, you can use a soft-tailed brush like this. Use a toothbrush. If it's a little bit more stubborn, I guess you could go to the small wire brush. While you're doing this, check the teeth, make sure that they're uniform, that they're not cracked or chipped. Check it both ways. You want to make sure that there's no valleys or warping in it this way, otherwise the reel would be suboptimal. Of course, with a reel like this, you're not going to find the replacement part to it. If you have a little wobble in that shaft, or if you have some worn teeth, you're kind of either going to use it or you're going to be out of luck. Alright, so that's buttered up, and you put grease on the face here because that anti-reverse, not the anti-reverse, the crosswind block is going to ride in that, and it's going to ride up and down. Alright, nice fair coating there. There's a little washer on the back of the main gear. We can put the main gear in now, and generally what I like to do at this point is put that handle on so that I'm holding the main gear in place. When I complete the rest of the assembly. Alright. That way it doesn't pop out as we go to put the other pieces in. Okay, the rotor was not a big deal, right? It's single point. We did put a little bit of greasing on that. Now I'm going to put a little bit of WD-40. I'm going to put some oil on that now for the slide, just to make sure that it stays the way it should. We should be able to flip that pretty easily now. On the back end of this, you want to make sure it's clean underneath. There's a little bit of old grease there. As I mentioned before, it's probably could be a cause of why that slide was kind of getting stuck there. So let's go back now and put some new grease onto the shaft itself. You don't need to get anywhere that the trip lever mechanism is, but you do need to get it on that shaft because that will be sliding inside of that reel body housing. And there's the same thing up top here with the part that acts as the pinion gear. You want to make sure that those teeth are uniform and not cracked, chipped, bent, or otherwise. And put some grease on that because that's going to interface with the main gear. Alright, and we just simply reinstall by pushing that in. Grabbing that U-clip. That's where the parts tray comes into play. The U-clip rides back into channels there. Like that. And now we should be able to turn this and just have a nice smooth turning reel. And as you can see, as that stud goes up and down, that's going to force the axle shaft to go up and down, and that's going to cause the oscillation. So next step then would be that part. We've already cleaned the crosswind block. Time to put a little fresh grease in that. And then if you don't remember, when we took this off, the axle shaft connected below the piece. It's so easy to just turn that upside down, and if you turn it upside down, it's going to bump against this. It's not going to complete it, and you're going to have rough operation. So you need to take a picture, mentally if not physically, of how you remove this so that when you go to put it back, you have it in the proper orientation. So easy to confuse that. Here's our axle shaft. We cleaned that up. There might be a light bend in this one. Just kind of rolling it on my table now to see. There might be a light one by the way it came out. But again, you're not going to get a replacement part for that at this point. So just going to have to be easy going back in. Alright, so we want to line the hole up so that it comes in approximate area of the other. And once that pin is in, then give it a test drive. And you can see if you had this upside down, this would be bumping against the pinion. So got it right side up, nice smooth operator. Time to close this up and finish the reel up top. So we'll put the little tab into the slot in the case. Going to line the bottom and grab that screw so that we can close this up. And once you close it up, trip the clicker. Make sure we are operating both sides. This is the override. Flip it back the other way. Make sure that we have the anti-reverse in place. Back up top now. If you remember, we have two pieces. The first one, the metal one, goes on first. If you didn't pay attention to that, pay attention to your the pictures you may have taken. And we have that little click tongue. That click tongue is going to ride in these little studs here. That's what's going to make the noise when your reel is backpedaling. And you don't need to do any more. These are sealed drag washers, so you can't access them to do any kind of lubrication or the like on it. Those are pressed into the case. So we'll put the button on. So the pressure on this drag washer is actually going to be on that click in that middle one, which is really going to hold it in place. And it's holding fine. Give it a nice ride here. That's working well. Make sure that our bail is tripping now. Bail is tripping fine. We're in good position. We're going to get this one back to John. So I hope you've enjoyed that video. And if you have a Mustang 320 by South Bend, you now know how to tune that up, or basically any of the reels of the era. Interestingly enough, this one says made in Hong Kong. So you don't see too much of that in the marketplace. So if you're in the middle of the pandemic like we are here, please stay safe and stay healthy. If you know a first responder, by all means, please thank them for what they're doing. Remind them, if you've seen the other video, remind them that I am offering free service on a fishing reel of their choice, just as a way to say thank you, and have them contact me by way of the business card at the end of this, and I'll be happy to work on a reel for them as they work on helping us all get better. So with this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.